Part 33. Severus's Burial. Before me and Harry could say anything, Minerva told everyone that the service would start soon. I wiped the tears off my face before anyone could see them. People started to go sit down, so I sat down right next to Harry with the letter opened in my hand. I muttered to Harry, "Harry, he does briefly mention you in this letter." "He does?" I nodded my head as he asked, "Can I read it?" "If you don't mind, that is. I know it's probably private." "Harry, you're my boyfriend. You don't need to ask." I handed him the letter, and he took a couple minutes to read it thoroughly. After he was done, he appeared emotional and looked at me as he handed me back the letter. I folded it back up as he said, "You know, I'm actually speechless." "I know, I am too, and I still don't know what to even say." "When it comes, just read some of that letter. I mean, not every detailed line, of course, but I don't mind me being mentioned either." "Yeah, maybe you're right. I'd actually might." I smiled softly at him as he smiled softly at me. I held on to Harry's hand as he said softly, "I realize now, Paige, from that Snape did really care for you after all." "Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what your mom would have wanted for him, you know? Like for him to open up his heart to someone else in his lifetime. Seems like, other than her, he never would have until you." He looked into my eyes. "If he did have some form of love for you, I'm glad. There's more I want to say, but we'll talk about it another time." He gripped my hand tight as I responded. One thing he wanted was for me to find my own happiness, and with you, I believe I will. He smiled back as he let me lay my hand on his shoulder as the ceremony was starting. Minerva came right near me, but up front to everyone, but to keep a close eye on me. Hagrid slowly brought out Severus's body. Tears streamed down my face, and Harry was emotional too. Everyone used lumos with their wands in the air, and me and Harry did the same. Just like with Dad's, Minerva somehow got the centaurs here as they held their bows up with the mer people singing. And, at the end, they shot the arrows into the sky to show respect. After close to 15 minutes, it was nearing the end. Minerva did a really great job of helping us pull everything together. After everything, Severus deserves this, at least. He really does. I hope spiritually he can see it. I mean, when Harry confronted him, and Minerva stood in front of him in the Great Hall, Severus didn't even want to fight her. I felt my heart throbbing against my chest as I started to shake, but Harry held my hand as I took a deep breath. I looked at Minerva, mouthing, "I don't know if I can do this." She looked at me with kind eyes. "You can do it, dear. I'm right here." With the white marble tomb now out of place, it was left open as his body was lowered into the tomb, and I felt tears trickle down my cheeks. I still can't believe he's really gone. Hagrid looked at me with sadness, but gave me a reassuring smile. I can't thank him enough for always being so supportive throughout the years. Minerva introduced everyone to me, speaking as I let go of Harry's hand and stood up, walking over to the front, standing right beside Severus's tomb. I gazed down upon him one last time as I felt a tear fall and drip right into the tomb with him. I took a shaky breath and looked at everyone. Minerva came and stood by my side for support. "Hi, everyone. Thank you all for showing up. I didn't think many of you would, and it means a lot. In the end, because of me and Harry, I'm glad most understand certain things and decisions or actions. Severus was a cold, dark, complex man at the same time. He was brave, loyal, broken, and full of surprises." I looked at Minerva as she nodded her head, and I took a breath. To those who don't know, I was really close to Severus. In fact, he was my boyfriend for a few years. We knew it was wrong for a student and teacher to be together, but a form of love blossomed. He had a deep, passionate love for Lily Potter, but things were different when it came to me. See, we weren't only together, but he watched over me since I was a baby. This is because my father asked him to after Voldemort killed my mother. I unfolded the letter, saying, Severus wrote me a last letter, and I want to read some of it out loud to you all. And so, I did read it. Not every single line, but most of it. After I finished, I looked up at everyone with tears in my eyes as I sniffled and struggled to get my words out. Since I couldn't speak, I turned around with Minerva and everyone's eyes on me. I pulled my wand out and muttered, "Expecto Patronum." Out of my wand, a deer formed out of the blue light as it pranced around for a moment around his tomb, vanishing into the sky. Within this moment, I thought of what I said to Severus. We can't change or be in control of what our Patronus will be, but it ties with our soul. I recall you or Dad saying that our Patronus can change with our soul. I turned around and looked at Harry with tears rolling down my face, and his eyes got wide, but he instantly understood it all. My Patronus used to be a hare or rabbit if you prefer. Long story short, Severus's Patronus was a deer, the same as Lily Potter. Mine was different, until now. Everyone looked either somewhat emotional or a little surprised. I glanced over at his tomb and said, Severus meant a lot to me, and knowing that he potentially saw a future with me, I stopped talking, almost bursting into tears as Minerva held on to my hand. Minerva stepped in to say, our Patronus cannot change or be in control of them, but they do change within our souls. Since he loved Lily Potter, his was a deer, and Paige's was a hare or rabbit until this very moment. This shows the connection of Paige's soul with his. Anything else you want to add, dear? I looked out at everyone. Losing my father was extremely rough on me, and it's been a rough time for everyone lately. But losing Severus was like losing my dad all over again. No one can understand our connection, but I'll love Severus for the rest of my life. Always. I softly started to cry as Minerva rubbed my back and saw Harry come and grab me to sit down. I noticed Hermione and Ron nearby as well, the three of them trying to comfort me, emotionally moved by what happened. I felt worse for Harry since he exactly knows partly why, but I think he understands. It took me losing Severus like this to truly realize how connected I've been to him all these years. I faintly heard the ceremony being wrapped up as I was trying to calm myself down a little. But all it took was to look up and watch the tomb being lowered into the ground for me to burst into tears. No! No! I exclaimed. I ran up, wanting to stop it, but Minerva quickly grabbed me and held on to me tightly as I cried into her chest. You have to let him go, dear. It's time for him to rest in peace. She rubbed my back of my head and looked at Harry as Harry looked at her. I felt Harry's hand on my lower back as I backed away and looked at Minerva. I'm sorry, Mom, I muttered. It's fine, dear. I know how hard this is for you. I think everyone understands. I love you. I love you too, I sniffled. She wiped some of the tears away and looked back at Harry. Potter, take care of her for me while I finish this. She doesn't need to be here anymore to see any of this. I watched Harry nod his head as I cried and Harry wrapped his arm around me. I glanced back one last time at the scene with his tomb. My heart felt like it was being crushed again. The same scenario occurred the day Dad was buried, and everyone was worried about me. Ron and Hermione followed along behind us, worried about me as we left the area completely. We didn't stop walking until we got into the Great Hall. After a couple of minutes of sitting, I managed to calm down. I'm sorry, you guys. I know you're worried about me. Paige, you have every reason to react in that way today. You clearly had a deep connection with him, and it's understandable, Hermione responded. Why didn't you tell us before? Ron asked. It's like I said, when me and Harry explained everything. Me and him went through a hell of a lot. I guess neither of us realized how much we meant to one another deep down until the end. I looked at Harry and he grabbed my hand. Not to worry, Paige. I understand. I know you may or may not ever have the same amount of love back. But I do have love for you, Harry. I'm in love with you. Others realized it first before me. Hell, even Severus. For him to mention marriage with you is something no one expected. But it says a lot. I still love you and will continue to, no matter what. Thanks, Harry. I love you too. We smiled softly at one another as we held hands and sat side by side. We sat in silence as I couldn't believe Severus was gone. And my soul had been connected to him all along. Stay tuned for the final part.